Good morning, Tech Data colleagues and followers. Thanks for tuning in for our first live session about women empowering women at Tech Data. I'm really honored to be the first in a series. We want to hear from you about topics that you want to hear about in the future series and also people you want to hear from. So thank you to Tech Data for allowing me to be the first in this series. It's also a first for me. I don't go live often, and so we'll be learning together and figuring this out together. So I have some notes. I'm going to be giving you a little bit of background about myself, how the idea for this live session was born, and then we're going to open it up for questions. So I really want to hear from you guys. Make sure that you're active and you participate. Thank you, Elevate, for organizing this with corporate comms, and let's get started. So I'm Deena. I currently lead the Latin America division for Tech Data. I've been with Tech Data 19 years, so I am literally living proof of the fact that you can start here as an intern and work your way up and really realize your true potential as a woman in this company. So I started right out of grad school in an MBA rotational program, and I've been growing my career and also just growing personally in my personal life here while I've been at Tech Data. 19 years, a lot of things have happened. I got married while I was at Tech Data, I had kids while I was at Tech Data, and we've also had to deal with some really challenging illnesses and family issues that everybody has to deal with in their life at some time. So the reality is, women in technology are underrepresented at leadership levels. So that's why we're talking about empowering women. This is not a man-hating session or a man-complaining session. We're actually hoping that men join because you have a role in helping us empower women as well. So we all need to admit there's a problem if we're going to think about fixing it. We're underrepresented, and so how do we make sure that we're empowering women to really reach their full potential here at Tech Data? I'm going to talk a little bit about how I feel empowered personally, how I've felt empowered by the company, and kind of my personal journey here. So you have to be able to see something to be able to dream or believe that you can be it. And although I've had amazing bosses and mentors here at Tech Data, they were all male. So I never had anybody that looked like me and that dealt with the same things that I dealt with as a working woman, as a working mom. So I took it upon myself to really be that example, be an example of somebody who can manage family and health and fitness and a lot of the other priorities I have in life and still be a successful career woman in technology. And some of the ways that I feel I've been able to be empowered here at Tech Data is, number one, now I'm in a position where I can actually demand that we have a diverse candidate pool when I'm hiring for key positions, like leadership positions. And because Tech Data's values and shared values are so front and center in the culture here, inclusion is one of those, I can actually say, if we're looking for a leader in Mexico or a leader in Brazil, that I want to see female candidates in that pool. I can also be vocal in public about prioritizing my family. So I will, publicly say I worked from home yesterday because it was my son's 12th birthday. And I wanted to use my lunch hour to go pick him up from school, which is something I don't get to do on a daily basis. But the fact that I can be in this position, share that with my colleagues, allows them to know that they can have the courage and the confidence to also be able to manage their priorities. And all of us have priorities, right? It's not only kids. We have aging parents, we have hobbies, we have passions. You have to have a life outside of work. So however you choose to prioritize your life, you have to make sure that you make the time. And it's important to me that I'm an example of that. Another way that I've gotten to be able to empower women is I created a women's professional network in Tech Data Miami. It's a co-ed group. We meet every 6 weeks. We read books and we have discussions about issues that women face in the workplace. Some of it is about work-life balance, some of it is about the imposter syndrome, some of it is the differences between men and women and their brains and how they think and how they approach things, which can be real. But having an open dialogue and having a co-ed dialogue really allows us to get some things out on the table and be able to tackle them together. We are now 4 women reporting to the President of the Americas, and it makes a difference, right? Numbers matter. Numbers on the scoreboard matter. The fact that we're 4 together changes the dynamic and changes the ability for others to see that they can aspire to be an SVP or a VP here in this organization. And actually, we went to the Yale Women in Leadership program together, the 4 of us, and that was really empowering for us. And it was just a pilot. So, we went as the guinea pigs, but we really want to create a program where more women in this organization get to do things like that together. So we're working with Akil and Talent Management to do that. I also have the liberty to bring a little bit of my own personal style to my leadership methodology here at Tech Data. So in my last QBR, I brought a meditation coach and introduced everyone to meditation. It's not something you hear about often here at Tech Data, but I feel it's important for us to all learn ways to manage stress. So if even a few people in that group took, a few new ways home of how to manage their stress and quiet their thoughts and be more present, then it was successful. So how did the idea for this session come up, right? Why me? Why now? Why did we start this? So it all started with a keynote opportunity I had 2 years ago at Women of the Channel East. So that was December 2017, and Tech Data asked me to be the keynote. And I spoke about leadership and character-driven leadership, because I really believe I am where I am today because of my character, not because of my technical skills. So I gave a speech mostly about where I thought there were some key moments in my career where my character stood out and really separated me from others or helped me succeed. And in a nutshell, it was about taking risks with courage, having confidence and accountability to own your wins and losses equally, right? You have to be able to admit your mistakes just as much as you can also celebrate your wins, and about communicating directly and addressing the elephant in the room. And one of the examples I gave about that was when my son was sick here. So during my tenure here at Tech Data, my son was diagnosed with leukemia right before his 3rd birthday. And these are the types of things you never wish on anyone, but unfortunately, many of us have to deal with it in our personal lives. So, obviously stepped back at that moment and didn't pursue a promotion that I was initially pursuing at that time, focused on getting him better and making sure that he was okay, because that was our #1 priority, but still worked through his treatment. And eventually, towards the end of his treatment, an opportunity came up to be promoted to director. And it was a position that I was in the succession plan for. It was one I had worked for, one I believed I was qualified for. So I went for it, even though my son was in the middle of getting treatment still and hadn't been finished yet. And so in the interview process, I addressed the elephant in the room. Can I do this job with a sick son? And I think that having that open dialogue really allowed the interviewers to get to know me personally and what made me tick and how committed I am to whatever I give myself to. So it didn't mean that I was going to give less of myself to my son, but that I was going to find a way to balance both. And one of the people in the audience at that Women of the Channel event was Victoria Diaz. At the time, she was working at Ingram, our competitor. She had heard of me, but we had never met before, and she watched my speech, and later on, she actually reached out to me in social media and told me that she had heard about me for years and had always considered me a competitor, kind of enemy, right? We're mortal enemies, Ingram and Tech Data. We compete for the same customers and vendors, and how that day changed her perspective. And I think a lot of times women, especially when we're in fields where we're underrepresented and we're often, some of the only ones at the table, we get pitted against each other as competitors rather than supporters. So that day, there was a change. And we kept in touch, and I actually started a blog, and she started following me, and we kept in touch over the past 2 years, but very distantly, just by social media. And a couple months ago, she wrote me to tell me that she was joining Tech Data. And she just joined about a month ago. She's leading our GCC team for global marketing. So she has a global position here at Tech Data, leading marketing for GCC. And one of the things she told me was, when this opportunity presented itself, I thought back to your speech at Women of the Channel, and I thought about the culture of the company that you described, and I knew that it was a place that I could work and that I would like working at. So that's how we thought about this, Women Empowering Women session, is without even knowing it, every time we're public, every time we're vocal, every time we're in front of people, telling our own personal stories and stories about the company, we could be inspiring somebody to take a risk, inspiring somebody to make a career decision, and inspiring somebody to become one of our colleagues. So what I ask all of you guys is, how are you inspiring people? How are you influencing people? Think about all those opportunities that you have to support each other, to inspire each other, to influence each other, and to empower each other. Because I do think that the culture here has changed. There's been a shift. Tech Data was always a great place to work, but right now the shared values are so front and center in the culture that we've created here that it's an even better place to work. And the amount of support that I feel from my female colleagues today is definitely more than I did before, and I'm here to help you, and I'm here to help you succeed, and I'm here to be an example that it doesn't have to come at the risk of yourself, your health, your family, and that you can find ways to make it work. So now we're going to open up to questions and see what we get. So bear with me, going into my Instagram to look at what kind of questions we're getting here. What skills and knowledge do you feel is needed as an executive female leader? So for me, one of the first things I would say is that there's not a cookie cutter answer to that. I think one of the most important things is to be true to yourself and be yourself, right? So over the years, I've learned the way to really truly be myself and bring my personality and still be girly and still love fashion and still love health and fitness and still be a corporate professional leader. But I think that in general as women, what we need to work on is courage, right? The courage to say no to certain things, the courage to take risks. I think that's one area that women always have to work on is, risk taking and risk management. And, the courage to be yourself. So I would say courage is probably the most important skill you need to be a successful female leader. Okay, from a recruitment perspective, do you think that we can recruit more external female leaders into Tech Data? I absolutely do think we can, and I think we're on a great path. So if you think about Direction of the Industry, which is a huge event that we do, a very exclusive but very important event that we do every year here in the US, and where we invite top partners, we just had a guest speaker that was very different than previous guest speakers. And it was an author called Joanne Littman who wrote a book called What She Said. And it's all about getting men and women to communicate in the workplace, right? So if we can position Tech Data as a thought leader on diversity and inclusion, on women empowerment, women enablement, women reaching their full potential, then I absolutely think that we will be able to recruit more senior female leaders. Because again, we'll have the culture that will allow them and really entice them to join. Okay, who inspired me and why? A lot of people inspired me. I would say Indra Nooyi is somebody I watched a lot as the CEO of Pepsi. If you ever have a chance, just watch like YouTube videos of her doing interviews. As a working mom, she gave me great tips, and she was the CEO of a huge corporation. I would say that Tiffany Bova, as a thought leader in our industry, inspired me tremendously. I would say Sheryl Sandberg. I know she's a controversial name to bring up right now, but the book Lean In really helped me to think about a lot of things and what I was doing and what I could do better in terms of even, your body language and when you walk into a room and you're at a table, and how much space do you occupy and how do you make sure that you're known and seen. And then I would say Sylvia Vanni. She's not somebody most of you would know, but she has a foundation called Mystic Force Foundation, and I met her as a result of my son's treatment. She lost her son to the battle with cancer, and she has made it her lifelong journey to get funds, more funds for research to cure childhood cancer, and her relentlessness in that cause really inspires me. Okay. Are there things you think make I'm trying to read this. Are there things you think male colleagues can do better in regards to opportunity and equality? Yes, I do. I think men can join the conversation. First of all, not be afraid of it or defensive of it. Just join the conversation and be conscious of ways that you could either be more inclusive or more exclusive, right? So I think one of the things we talk about a lot in our industry is the good old boys network and the habits that have been built, right? Golf course meetings, cigar lounge meetings, bar meetings, and things that have typically been with boys together. So think about how you're being inclusive and how you could be more inclusive of women in those settings. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to change those meetings, but invite some women to be part of it, or ask for suggestions of other ways that you can have those same meetings and be effective in a co-ed environment. Okay. What was the biggest challenge you had to face in your career? So in my life, in general, the biggest challenge I had to face for sure was my son's sickness and us overcoming that as a family. And I think it made us a lot stronger, and it definitely was challenging in my career. But I would say from a purely professional perspective, I was really shy when I first started here at Tech Data. I had just come out of school. I was kind of raised to answer questions when they were, asked of you, not to necessarily interrupt or speak over people. So I had to really think about how to overcome my own shyness and really step out of my comfort zone and be able to demonstrate all of the capabilities that I had, the thoughts that I had, the ideas that I had, and put them into action. What advice would I give to young females entering the tech industry? Find a passion, keep learning, never stop learning, right? Always keep your brain working, and don't ever think that you don't belong, because you absolutely do, as long as you're happy in this industry and you're doing what you're passionate about. Okay, what do I think would be good advice for people pursuing new challenges at work? I think this is a good one, because a lot of times we get kind of afraid of stepping out of our comfort zone or volunteering for additional projects because it means more work. But I think you always have to be one step ahead, right? You always need to be thinking about where you want to go. Read the job description of the next job you want. Volunteer to lead a project. Volunteer to do something different, because you showing that you can do it before maybe you've even been tapped to do it is the best way to make sure that you are always top of mind for people. So I think that's really important is, we can't get bogged down and that's not part of my job description. I don't need to do that. If you want to excel, you need to make sure that you're pushing your boundaries yourself and showing people that you can do more. And I think that it's also really good to vocalize what you want. That's something I had to learn also kind of later in my career is, you have intentions, you have goals, vocalize them. Not only to make yourself accountable, but to have that discussion with your manager or your leader. Do I have any good book recommendations for group discussions? I have so many. So I actually created a website so that I could house all my book recommendations, and I categorize them by topic. So if you go to www.iamdeena.com, you can go to the resources section, and I have a whole book section, and I have books on leadership, I have books on parenting, I have books on health and fitness, I have books on all kinds of things. So what characteristics helped me grow the most at Tech Data? I think, again, that goes back to my character, right? My personality. Once I commit to something, I'm like OCD about getting it done, right? So I am like relentless about delivering on my commitments and fearlessness, right? I had to cultivate fearlessness in myself. So that courage, that risk-taking, and the courage to take the risk and the courage to say, wow, I just made a big mistake. It didn't go the way that I wanted, but at least I learned and I know not to do that next time, or I've learned from it. So I would say just commitments, relentless commitments, and courage and fearlessness. How do I earn respect as a C-level female in a male-dominated industry? This is an ongoing challenge. I don't think it's ever done, right? But I think you learn by contributing. So a lot of times I think I see women kind of get shyer in a situation, thinking maybe if I don't say anything, they won't notice me or I won't have to deal with it. But I think that the way that you earn the respect and you earn your seat at any table with anyone is that you contribute, right? You give your thoughts, your opinions respectfully, right? You can respectfully agree or disagree with people, but make sure you provide your opinion. What are some ways I practice servant leadership with my team? So servant leadership, wow, this was really definitely an awakening and a change in tech data culture, I think. And in Latin America, it's a big change culturally, right? We come from, at least in Latin America, it's typically been a very command and control style leadership practice that people have been used to. And so changing that has been hard. But some of the ways that I do it is, I gather people around and I tell them that I want to hear from them, that actually they are the experts. They're closer to the customer. They're closer to the vendor. They're closer to the business. So I want to hear from them. I empower them. I give them that opportunity to be able to share with me their ideas. Doesn't always mean that I will agree with them, but it means that we have a collaborative discussion, right? So I think inspiring and enabling people and empowering people to share their opinions with you is really a powerful way to practice servant leadership. Okay, I think that's all the questions that we have for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and we look forward to your feedback. Please let us know, what do you want to hear in the next live session about women empowering women? Thanks.